Hey, what's up, guys? This is Adam D'Angeli, and in this video, we're going to be talking about the latest version of the corporate cannabis cartel legislation that's intended to destroy the independent caregiver industry in Michigan and create a permanent monopoly for multinational corporations and an attendant permanent lobbying class in Lansing. Now, let me explain. What happened this past week? This legislation moved forward in the House Regulatory Reform Committee despite overwhelming public opposition. And what lawmakers did, well, what the lobbyists did, the lawmakers did for them, was introduce a substitute that they said was going to be this wonderful compromise, and we're going to try to make everybody happy, and we've heard your concerns, and we're going to address them in this new version of the legislation. We're going to go through that legislation in just a moment here. Let me make the point, though. We've been saying since when we first heard about this, there's no way this is any kind of compromise, because there's no compromising with the hardened opposition that's totally opposed to us. This legislation is intended to destroy the independent caregivers in Michigan and create a corporate monopoly in Lansing. That was its intention. So there's no compromise to protect the rights of caregivers, because that would sabotage the entire purpose of the bill. If that was a compromise, would be not changing the law at all. No, but that's not what they're doing. What they are doing is creating a fraud to attempt to convince people who don't know better that this is some kind of compromise that protects your rights. We're going to go through this bill line by line and show you that it actually does nothing of the sort. So let's get right into it. We're going to talk about the biggest things first. So this is the original bill, and this is the most pernicious part of the bill right here. This was the original language that says, as of March 21st of next year, the amount of plants a caregiver can have, patients a caregiver can have, is knocked down from 5 to only 1. In other words, 80% of your business is wiped out. That is the goal. So in the new legislation, it appears that maybe they've actually taken that out, because here's that same paragraph. And no longer does it say that you no longer will have to be reduced to having only 1 patient. You can still have up to 5 registered qualifying patients. Yay! Isn't that a great victory? That sounds wonderful. But you have to look at all the details of the bill, because again, the intention of the legislation is to wipe out the caregivers. If it wasn't doing that, they wouldn't do it. So let's look more carefully at what is really going on here. Let's go up to this page here, page 10. And there's this new language in the substitute. Here it is. The limitation on how much marijuana someone can have. And it says here, a combined total for each registered qualifying patient in 12 plants. However, on or after 180 days after the effective date of the Mandatory Act, a combined total of 2.5 ounces of marijuana and total of 12 plants, period. Not just per patient. Now let's look at the original bill language. That wasn't in there before. This is that same paragraph. Originally, it said, for each registered qualifying patient, you're entitled to 2.5 ounces and 12 plants. For each registered qualified patient that you have. They changed that. Now, it says, after 180 days after this bill goes into effect, it's not per patient, it's period. You can't have more than 12 plants. So the prohibition is still in there. They just think they've been clever and made it said in a different way. Oh, well, yeah, we'll just be able to lock you up if you have more than 12 plants, regardless of how many patients you actually have. That's it right there. There's actually some more stuff in this bill that we need to talk about too. One of the biggest things relates to zoning. So we're going to look at that. Let's see here. What do we have here? Okay, page 31. Let's look at page 31. This is about zoning. And this we knew was coming because Rep. Gary Howell has been working behind the scenes in his community to try to find ways to regulate local caregivers out of existence through zoning laws. So this is new language in here. Where do we have here? Here we go. This is new. This was not in the last one. A primary caregiver is authorized to cultivate marijuana plants and manufacture marijuana only at the primary caregiver's residence or at a single location that is unzoned, which is basically nowhere. Zoned for agricultural or industrial use as of right, meaning farms, industrial sites, or zoned to explicitly authorize a primary caregiver to cultivate and manufacture marijuana. In other words, nowhere. So the only place you could grow is in your own primary home, or in an area zoned for farmer industry. So no renting commercial places, which is too bad for the landlords because there's lots of vacant commercial lots right now. No renting a house just for growing in. Can't do that anymore under this law. So they've actually made this worse for caregivers. They've said you still can't ever have more than 12 plants after 6 months. And also you won't be able to grow anywhere except in an industrial zone or your own personal home, or maybe if you can find some fantastical place that's either unzoned or zoned explicitly for growing marijuana. Good luck finding any such places in the world. So those are the biggest things. There's a couple of little things I'll draw attention to just because for the sake of completeness. I want to show you everything that is new in this substitute that was not in the original. So let's just go through it. These other things are minor in comparison. Those are the biggest ones, but let's just point out a few other things here. Page 5, this definition of location is new. Location is defined to mean a parcel of real property, all structures and surrounding buildings, all structures on the property, and also any surrounding parcels of real property that you own. The definition of overages on page 6. They've added in this. It kind of comports with this part up here, but it applies as well as to section 4C as to 4B. They've added a definition of residence on this next page. Just saying it means it's in the vehicle code, so nothing major there. Just I think for the sake of completeness, they did that. Now let's look at section 4 briefly, because we saw that as we went up here, they have this additional definition for section 4C. So what's section 4C? Let's see. We're in section 4, B, C. It's just the marijuana cartel growers. That's what the licensed specialty medical grower means. It means the corporate cannabis cartel. So adding an additional protection for them. Let's see, what else do we have here? Page 17, there's something. Subsection U won't take effect for 12 months. Big deal. Doesn't mean much of anything. This is just saying this doesn't take effect for 6 months. That's all. Not really important. Page 20. I think they added in that the individual has to be 21 years of age or older. So too bad for you people who are 18, 19, 20-year-old adults. You don't have full adult rights. And then we also have on the next page, this is interesting. Let's see, what do I have? I'm looking back at my notes here. This paragraph, I believe, is new. Let's look at what the original one said. Okay, we got the preceding 10 years, and then the preceding 5 years has not violated this act. That's been changed to these two paragraphs. First of all, is not admitted to, pled guilty to, been convicted of violating this act. That's good. But this paragraph is added. If in the immediately preceding 5 years, the marijuana regulatory agency issued to the individual a notice of violation for violating this act, the Medical Marijuana Facilities Licensing Act, the Michigan Regulation and Taxation of Marijuana Act, or the Marijuana Tracking Act, the individual contested the notice. First of all, this isn't even grammatical. If in the immediately preceding 5 years, the marijuana agency issued a notice to blah, 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 comma, the individual contested the notice. So they issue a notice that you're in violation of something, and I guess they mean, this probably should be and the individual contested the notice, you're still in violation. They can still, so what they're saying is while a violation is pending, hasn't been determined yet, you contest it, they are still shutting you down. That's now in there. What else do we have? Page 23. About zoning. This is new. And again, this is for licensed specialty medical growers to be zoned for agriculture, industrialists, or zoned for and again, they're fine with this because that's what the corporate cannabis cartel is going to be doing, is constructing their own marijuana crops, their own marijuana facilities on industrial property. Also, there's this language. Cultivation and manufacture of marijuana are subject to local zoning regulation to the extent that the local zoning does not directly conflict with this act. So, again, giving municipalities the ability to shut you down through zoning. That's what that's all about. Page 30. The effective date is extended here. Oh, this is interesting. The application for 180 days. Okay, so there's that. But here's the interesting thing I found was right here. For an application submitted after 6 months of the effective date, all of the conditions are met. 1, the individual is 21 years of age or older. Again, too bad if you're an adult who's 18 years old. But here, they're giving you an exception if the parent or legal guardian of the registered qualifying patient gives you a permission slip. I mean, that's unbelievable if you think about it. An 18-year-old, a 19-year-old, a 20-year-old is an adult. The parents don't have any legal rights over the adult at that point. But in this case, you can issue an application as long as if they're not 21 years of age, you can issue it to their parents, the parent of a patient. Oh, I see. Okay, so you can be a caregiver. You have to be 21 if you're a caregiver, or you can be the parent of a qualifying patient. Okay, so it's not quite as ridiculous as I thought. Still bad. Here's an interesting one on page 34 here. This is different. Now let's go back to the original. They're a little bit about a page off. So here, the original language says, the Marijuana Regulatory Agency may disclose to the Department of State Police or local law enforcement agency this address of the location at which a registered primary caregiver or a licensed specialty grower cultivates or manufactures marijuana. This is nice. They actually add in, if they request it. It says the Department of State Police, local law enforcement, if they request from the agency the address of the information, then they can give it out. In practice, is that much of a difference? Probably not. But then also here you have on page 35, this is new. Let's go back down here, because this is different. In the new one, it says, a person, including an employee, contractor, or officer of the Marijuana Regulatory Agency, who discloses confidential information in violation of this act. And again, that is not in here. That is, here, let me find it over here. Yeah, sorry, I try to make these two line up. Let's see, where are we? We're in paragraph 5. Okay. So here, that language doesn't exist. A person at the agency who discloses information is guilty of a misdemeanor. Here they're adding in, where are we? Here. And who, at the time of the disclosure, knows that the disclosure violates the act, is guilty of a misdemeanor. So you can claim ignorance. Oh, I didn't know I was violating the act. Okay, well then you're free to go. They put that in there. So, essentially, in every way, this bill is actually worse for caregivers than the original was. And all that garbage that the regulatory committee people were saying about how, yeah, we've reached a nice compromise was absolute nonsense. Of course it was. They thought they could run a trick play and maybe on some of their colleagues on the Reg Reform Committee who were dumb enough to believe them that, oh, we've taken down that restriction, it's not there anymore. No, we've just made it that it's now still it's going to be a crime for you to have more than 12 plants, period, regardless of how many patients you have. The language of per patient is removed, so they found a clever, subtle way to do this in a way that probably duped their colleagues on the committee into voting yes, or in some cases, pass. So get this information out, folks. Contact your lawmakers. Tell them to vote no on the Cannabis Cartel Act, because that's coming up for a vote, possibly even this week. And the lawmakers, the people behind this bill, effectively duped their lawmakers into believing this was a compromise. And we got to double down now and sound the alarm that we're not going to be fooled. We're not going to be placated. This is a scam. So hope you guys found this informative, and thanks always for all that you do for liberty. Until next time, peace out.